Hello, everyone. This is Professor Schachter, and I'm here with our Chapter 1 lecture for AC111. So, I am going to be showing you the PowerPoint presentation right now, and we're going to review elements from Chapter 1 that you will also be reading about in the book. Okay, so this is the presentation, which is also available in your Blackboard Shell folder. So chapter 1 is basically an overview with some very important definitions, which we're going to go over and into some detail. So as we scroll through this, let's start with what is the definition of marketing? Marketing is an exchange, and it is very important. You see, oops, sorry about that. You see over here the word exchange? Now, what that means is that before marketing, a marketing activity may be considered a marketing activity, there has to be an exchange of something of value between two parties. So, to give you an example, let's say you go out to a restaurant and the wait person comes over and says, "What would you like? May I take your order?" And you say, "Yes, I'd like to give you my order," and you order, let's say, I don't know, brunch, whatever the brunch is. Now, when the waiter gives you the menu and you give the wait person the order, that's not an exchange. Because while you may have received something of value, food, the restaurant and the wait person did not receive anything of value. Your order was not something of value. Now, when you pay the bill at the end and you leave a very nice gratuity for the wait person, that's when the exchange is complete. So this could be someone saying, "Hey, how about if I give you cookies in exchange for you helping me understand marketing so you can tutor me?" That's an exchange. You got cookies, which are always valuable, and they receive knowledge in the form of understanding marketing, which is valuable to them. So an exchange does not necessarily have to be monetary, but it has to be where two things of value are being traded. This was before money came about. There was something called bartering, where people used to barter for things they wanted. Some people, so you could trade a chicken for someone else's, I don't know, a goat. That makes no sense. But that's how people used to do it before money came about. When money was created, it was just to facilitate exchange quicker. And now we have other ways to facilitate this. We have credit cards, which is basically a promise to pay, right? When you give someone your credit card, you're not actually paying. You're paying when the bill comes. So the credit card companies trust us without promise to pay, and so on and so forth. So make sure that the most important part that you understand about marketing is that we are exchanging two things of value. Now, the value part of the exchange is the interpretation that the consumers put on that object. So, for example, if someone says, "Well, how about I will trade you this bottle of Coke, Coca-Cola, for you tutoring me," and you say, "Well, I don't drink soda, I don't like soda, and I don't like Coke." That is not an exchange because the bottle of Coke has no value to you. So value is a subjective thing. In other words, the consumer, psychologically, we assign value to things. You assigned value to a college education. Other people may not assign value to a college education. You want to go into marketing. To you, that is a career that has value to you. To other people, let's say they want to go into medical school and they want to go to medical school so they can go into medicine or law. So value is very subjective. When someone pays $1,200 for a new phone, right? I have an old one, but then they say that the value to them for that iPhone or Samsung or whatever is $1,200. Apple or Samsung, I'm a big Apple person, so I'll be using Apple a lot. Apple communicates the value that they believe their brand has. And when people pay for an Apple product, they pay a premium price because Apple communicates through their marketing that they are a premium brand and their brand is worth extra money. Okay, it's the same thing for Starbucks and other brands. So it is our job in marketing to constantly communicate what value our brands have. We do this through imagery, we do this through words, videos, social media, so on and so forth. But that consistent message has to yes, I'm saying consistent a lot. Is consistently messaging the same brand values. So it could be functional, how something works. At the basic level, that's what brand communications are. And value is added to how does it work? Does it break down a lot? Does it give me the nutrition I want? Is it healthy if it's a food or drink item? Experiential means how do we feel? What is the experience of owning this? And psychological, obviously, is how does it make us feel? So when we pay money for something, we're paying for the value that brand gives us. Defining the value is one of the hardest things we do in marketing, if not the hardest, because we are convincing someone that that symbol of a apple that was bitten into, that's the logo for Apple, is worth so much more money. That MacBook, which is basically no different than a Dell laptop or any laptop or a Chromebook. You have Microsoft Word on it, you may access social media on it. But there's very little, if anything, and I'm saying if anything, because there might be one or two things that you do if you have a MacBook or an Apple product that cannot be done on an Android phone, on a much cheaper Android phone, or a much less expensive laptop. So when you're paying that premium or I'm paying that premium, we are paying for the brand. All right. And it is a purely psychological connection between the brand, Nike is the same way, Adidas is the same way, and the consumer. If there is no psychological connection where the consumer really sees the value, the emotional value, and they're willing to pay for that, then the product becomes a generic product. And as a generic product, like let's say lettuce or carrots, when we go to the store and we buy vegetables, we're not looking for the brand of cucumber. We're looking for cucumbers. And we're going to buy the lowest price cucumbers, whether we prefer organic or inorganic. We're going to look for the lowest priced groceries that we can find, and vegetables and fruit. Okay, there really are no brands for these things. And that's what a non-brand preference becomes. What is the least expensive laptop? What is the least expensive energy drink? What is the least expensive coffee? So all our efforts in marketing and marketing communications, especially marketing communications, because we deliver that message, we create it and deliver it to the target audience, is to not be a generic product. As human beings, when you're going to be graduating FIT and you're going to go to your job interviews, you don't want to be just another job candidate. You want to be you. But to be paid for you, you can't be a generic candidate. You must bring added value that's easily communicated and perceived by the audience. Okay, so all of these elements in marketing and marketing communications very much apply to personal branding as well. Now, when we look at something called the marketing mix, And then we have something called the promotional mix. And I don't want you to confuse the two. The marketing mix has four things: product, price, place, and promotion. And it's very important that you understand these because there is a relationship between these four things. The first thing is that these four elements are 100% controllable by the company. So there are a lot of things a company can't control. Can't control the environment, can't control what the competition does, really. It can't really control the government, technology that other companies bring into the market. They cannot control a lot of things. But these are four things they control 100%. They control the product. They control what they make, how they make it, and if they want to make it, right? If they want to manufacture it or sell it. They control the price. They can decide to sell a particular product or brand at any price they want. So Apple can choose to say iPhone 13 is $8,000. Of course, it's not really going to sell at $8,000 because the consumers are going to say, whoa, wait a minute, $8,000 for a phone. I can buy a car for $8,000. I can so on and so forth for $8,000, not paying $8,000 for a phone. So what happens then is that there's a relationship between price and value. We have a set price bracket in our heads from media, from our historical relationship with products, directly or indirectly, that we kind of understand what something should cost. Now, that in itself is not very real. In other words, we believe that a Rolex watch should cost no less than $5,000 to $10,000. But that's only because Rolex has told us that a Rolex watch costs $5,000 to $10,000. So if we see someone wanting to sell us a used Rolex for $150, we're going to say, that's fake because it's not really what a Rolex sells for. So price is very much a function, not just of accounting, but of our own experience and our own knowledge. Okay. What should an engagement ring cost? What should a house cost? What is a very good dinner in a fancy restaurant? What should that cost? So price is both a function of our history and our assignment of value, as much as it is a function of how a company makes money. But the interesting thing about price is, for the consumer, it also provides the consumer with a guide. In other words, what should I compare product A with in order to understand if I'm getting more or less for my money? So let's say we are pricing a handbag, and Coach wants, and I'm using Coach for a reason. And let's say Coach prices the handbag at $175. Okay, at $175, it's going to be compared to other handbags in that price range. You're not going to compare it to Chanel. But if you price the bag at $3,000, you may start looking at Chanel. Well, for $3,000, I can have a Chanel bag. Why do I want to have a Coach bag? And when that question is being asked, that's where marketing communications has to step in with a message explaining why. Answering the why is the core of everything we do. The place is where we sell it, meaning online, through platforms, brick and mortar stores, pop-up stores, so on and so forth. And promotion is what channels do we use to deliver that message? Traditional, digital, so on and so forth. Okay? So the marketing mix is these 4 P's, as they're called, that have a relationship with each other, right? So for example, if the product is very expensive, There are fewer places that it's going to be sold in. There are fewer customers that are able to afford it. And the budget may be a lot less. So if we have something extremely expensive, so I'm going to use something really expensive. Rolls Royce sells cars for around $400,000 or $500,000, and they sell about 150 cars a year, more or less. Chevy sells hundreds of thousands of cars some years, but definitely about 100,000 cars a year. So Chevy's trying to attract a large number of people. So they're going to do their commercials on TV. They're going to do it on the Super Bowl. They're going to try to reach as many people as possible. Rolls-Royce only needs to reach a couple of hundred people that are very wealthy, that they know who they are, and they can do a very personal, actually what they do is they do a letter writing campaign. They don't do as much they don't do TV advertising. So the more expensive a product is, fewer people can afford it, fewer channels through which to sell, and fewer promotional channels to use. And that's the relationship between price, which affects all the others. Price, if it's very expensive, you're going to manufacture fewer products, you're going to sell them in fewer places, and you're going to promote them through fewer channels. If the product is very inexpensive, like a Snickers bar, you're going to manufacture many Snickers bars. You're going to distribute it through as many places as possible, and you're going to promote it through as much as possible, through as many channels as possible, in order to get millions of people buying Snickers bars. Okay. Now, as we move on, we need to understand what exactly integrated marketing communications is. So when I mentioned many channels and so on and so forth, all these channels and all these disciplines must work together. So as we move forward, we're going to be looking at something called the promotional mix. The promotional mix is the many disciplines we have to choose from. So I'll forward a little bit. This is the promotional mix. And now you'll see there's advertising, there's direct marketing, digital, sales promotion, publicity and PR, and personal selling. Okay, now, when we look at this, and I was talking about integrated marketing communications, well, a company has a budget. So let's say that budget is $1 million. I'm making this up. So if they have $1 million, how are they going to spend that $1 million? They can use advertising. They can do direct. They can do a combination of all these elements, right? And the whole idea behind integrated marketing communications is that, let's say, publicity works with advertising, and to create a multi-points where the consumer can be reached with the same message. So you may be reading about a product review in a publication online, and then you may see a social media ad for that publication, or an influencer speak about it. And then you see a regular ad, maybe during an over-the-top streaming, on an OTT streaming service. And the message is going to be consistent. Because of the many brands in the market these days, and because of the many opportunities and fragmentation in channels, marketing promotions has developed these elements: advertising, direct, digital, so on and so forth, the promotional mix through which the consumer can be reached. The consumer is very hard to reach these days. Forgive me for a second. And what makes them hard to reach is because, well, before there used to be a few channels of TV, a newspaper, and a magazine. So you can always reach people in a mass amount. Right now, there's a million people watching this. There's 2 million people on social. It's such a fragmented way that we need to have different disciplines to reach them, but the message must be the same. So they must be able to engage the brand through many different platforms. Now, the most popular one that you all know is advertising. And one of the most important things you have to realize is, and by the way, I'm just giving you an overview. Please read the chapter. Advertising is not personal, but it is the most effective way to reach a large number of people. So the Super Bowl is coming up in the next few weeks, and anyone who does ads on the Super Bowl will be reaching about 100 million people. But the advertisers, meaning the brands, they don't know who those people are. Okay, they don't know that so and so watched the ad. So advertising gives you mass numbers, right? Gives you large numbers of people. It's not personal. You can't really say that somebody watched the ad and then bought the product. You can't really measure it. It's not measurable, but it's very cost effective. Now, on the other hand, when we have publicity or PR, that is also not very measurable, but it is more, I don't want to say personal, but where advertising, you know, it's an ad because it's paid for, right? That's one of the most important parts about advertising. It's paid for. Publicity and PR, it's not paid for. So publicity and public relations have more credibility. Okay. When you see a story about a celebrity, a lot of those times, those stories are nothing more than public relations people writing those stories. I hate to say it's fiction, but let's just say it's not the spontaneous story that most people believe it is. Additionally, a lot of times you may see celebrities or not influencers, but celebrities with a product that you feel that, oh my God, they're using this and it's so great, but they got paid to do it. So public relations kind of works in ways where you don't know it's a message. You don't know it's a paid message. Product reviews, a lot of 99% of the time, are written by the manufacturers or their public relations firms. So if it's a beauty blog and they're writing reviews for different types of skincare creams and stuff, um, a lot, and they have links to those products so you can buy them. They get a percentage of those sales. So how unbiased are those things, those reviews? Which brings me to direct marketing. Direct marketing is 100% measurable. That's its best attribute, right? And direct to consumer brands that you are aware of, they're a form of direct marketing. They market direct to consumers. Now, sales promotion is basically what you know, couponing, a way to get people to try a product for lower costs, a way to get people to buy more product by saying, hey, buy one, get one free. Out of all of these, personal selling is the most expensive one because personal selling involves someone speaking to you one on one to sell you something. It could be a car, could be a house, it could be Avon, could be a lot of things. So notice that I kind of left out digital and internet marketing. To be honest with you, the book is a little bit out of date on this, and we're not going to be covering the internet digital marketing chapter in the book, but we have courses on that at FIT. So basically, just to tell you, just for the sake of this, the digital aspect of it is anything that happens online. And all of these advertising, direct marketing, publicity, maybe not personal selling, but all the other ones happen also in a digital environment. So I don't want to confuse the issue by discussing that one in any kind of way that may bring confusion. Another thing I'd like to stress out is that all the elements that I did discuss, advertising, direct marketing, sales promotion, PR, personal selling, except for personal selling, they have a specific chapter in the book. So we're going to there's 2 chapters on advertising, chapters 8 and 9. There's a chapter on direct marketing. There's a chapter on sales promotion. And chapter 17, I believe, is the chapter on PR and publicity. And we're going to do a deeper dive into them. For chapter one, that where we are right now, please read the section in the book about the advantages and disadvantages of each one of these elements. Okay, right now that is what you're supposed to really get a good grip on from this chapter. So this here is also detailed of each one. Now, you'll see graphs and charts like this throughout the presentation and other presentations. Please, there's no reason for you to know these. They're out of date, but I'm leaving them in so you can get an idea of how many billions of dollars is spent on advertising. So in 2018, Comcast spent $6 billion. You see, it says million, so 6,122 million. 6,122 million, that's 6 billion. So there's a lot of money here. All these are billions of dollars spent a year on advertising. Okay, so now I don't really cover this a lot, and you don't really need to know it for the test. So we can skip this. This, though, is important because we do different types of advertising. So the advertising that you're most aware of is B2C, business to consumer. Business to business is when a company sells to businesses. So, for example, if we were at FIT right now, you would see that we have desks and chairs and computers, but FIT doesn't buy one computer. FIT will buy, let's say, 100 computers. So they're not going to go to Best Buy and say, hey, can I have 100 computers? They're not going to walk in and come out with 100 computers. So they're going to deal with the business to business part. So either deal with Dell or Apple directly, because those are the computers we have, or they find a vendor that will negotiate the prices for many, many units. So when a business buys in large quantities, that type of selling and advertising is business to business. And there is such a thing as business to business communications, which expresses different benefits. Professional advertising is when we target people based on what they do for a living. So we may target lawyers with benefits that only a lawyer would care about. We may target medical professionals with things that they are most concerned with, and so on and so forth. And trade advertising has to do with, for example, let's say you're selling cars, then you're going to be targeting car dealers. Okay. Now, the difference between this and business to business is that business to business can be any business. So it could be, you can be targeting selling computers to schools, to businesses, to accounting firms, to whatever. But trade advertising is about a specific trade. Trade meaning profession. So it could be, let's say you're selling x-ray machines. Man, you may be targeting people, companies who are in the, let's say, physical rehabilitation or urgent care centers, but you're not going to be targeting car dealerships. So trade advertising is specifically for an industry, law firms, medical firms, car dealerships. And that's the difference between trade and business to business. Okay, so we're going to go over direct marketing in detail in the direct marketing chapters. Okay, so you do not need to know this now, but we're going to be going over this throughout the whole semester. And what this really shows you is the different ways and the different places from all around our lives that can actually communicate with us. We'll get direct marketing messages, which could be in the form of a text message or those robocalls that we get on our phones, those spam calls. We go to an event. Well, we used to go to events, but when we go to events, we have advertising all over the walls, and we walk down the streets. Let's see here, out of home media we have, so that's billboards, people personally selling to us. Anytime we walk into a store, People may went, hey, can I help you? Would you like to see this pair of pants? So on and so forth. We can't go online without being bombarded with ads. So if you look, we live, walk, breathe in a sea of communication messages. I think it's to a point where it's a little bit overwhelming. Okay, don't worry about this. So this is very important, mostly in social. Organic is what you own. So if it's a blog on your own website, photos that you take, so on and so forth, and people come to read, that's organic. You own it. You don't pay for it. That's owned media. And when people come there to read your stuff, that's your earned, right? You earned it by creating great content. And paid media are the ads you run and to drive people. All right. So you have paid, owned, and earned. But the most important part for all three is it has to be interesting, it has to be useful to the audience, and it really, really must connect. That's engagement. Okay, so here's you have more of them. Now, this is a very important slide. And what's really important about it is that it includes the idea of how everything is planned. So the marketing plan, right, is the most important fundamental document that we have when we start on this um, marketing communications journey. So what you need to understand is what it, and know, not just understand, but know, is what it has included. So over here we have the elements, right? A detailed situation analysis. What that means is, okay, we have this water bottle right here, Skyra from Icelandic, right? And we want to, and they wanted to sell this. So the detailed situation analysis. Well, what do you want to do? We want to sell bottled water. Okay, where do you want to sell it? Through what channels? Who's your audience? Who's your target market? And what are the objectives? What is your time frame in 1 year? Okay, what are your sales objectives? What are your communications objectives? What are your target market objectives? Um, what do you want to accomplish? And how are you going to measure those accomplishments? What are milestones that you want to have every month? So let me put it to you in a better, different way. If someone, let's say, wants to become a marathon runner and they never ran before, right? And they know a marathon is a little over 26 miles. So they have to build up their endurance. And let's say they want to run a marathon in 2 years. Well, every month they're going to measure how far they run and how fast they ran. And that tells them how much progress they made. So in 24 months, how close are they to running the 26 point whatever miles a marathon is? And they change their training to adapt. Train more, sleep more, take more rest. In other words, everything is measured every month, every week, and they adjust it to get to that certain goal of running a marathon in 2 years. Well, it's the same thing for a brand. Where do they want to be in a year? And what measures, how we measure that? And which marketing communication channels are most effective? Which ads are working the best? Now in digital, it's easier to measure. And in PR, we're going, let's see, where else can we get stories about this water? And so on and so forth. So all this is part of the marketing plan. You see here, it says program for implementing the marketing strategy and how do you monitor and evaluate it. And that is a very, very important part. So what I would suggest is that for any quiz we may have or the final exam, that you understand and know all the elements inside of a marketing plan. Okay. And these bullet points, Now, during the internal analysis phase of the marketing plan, we have to look at who we are as a brand. What can we do as a company? And what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Part of a SWOT analysis. What are the benefits that we bring to the market? Okay. What's our brand image? What are product strengths and weaknesses? Consumer opinion, awareness. All these things are about a self internal analysis, because if we're not honest with ourselves about what our brand is, what our consumer opinion of the brand currently is, then we're not going to be able to move forward. We must know who we are and where we are before we can get to where we want to be. What a lot of people don't know, or it's historical most likely, is that in 1997, Apple was 30 days away from bankruptcy. And when Steve Jobs came back to the company, he had to make a lot of tough decisions before Apple became the world's biggest brand and forecasted to become a $3 trillion company this year. Right now, they're about $2.5 trillion. So, and on Wednesday, when Apple announces earnings, it's believed, we don't know that until Wednesday, but it's believed that they will have, for the first time, have revenues of $100 billion in 3 months. In other words, every quarter. So from October to December of last year, they would have sold $100 billion worth of products just in 3 months. But in 1997, they were almost broke. Okay. So they understood where they were, and they understood what they needed to do. They brought out the iMac, which was a different computer than anyone else had. They leveraged their creativity and for their operating system. They created the iPod, which was a much better MP3 player than anyone else had. Then they brought that out with an iPhone, which was better than the BlackBerry that was on at the market, and so on and so forth. But in music with iTunes, and I'm not going to go into the history of Apple, but it was a step-by-step process by analyzing who they were, by understanding where they made mistakes, and by understanding how to move forward. And they executed that every single day. All right. That's part of the marketing plan. Now, the external analysis are the things that we can't do much about. Now, tax laws, we can't do anything, we can't really do much about them. What if the competition does something that we didn't plan for? Like BlackBerry did not plan for Apple to come out with the iPhone. New markets for us to go into, right? What if the competition comes onto the market with a product that consumers love so much and is so revolutionary that it puts Apple out of business or in trouble, right? So, for example, Intel never thought that Apple will make their own chips, computer chips for their products, but they did. And they are discontinuing using Intel. So, consumer behavior has changed due to social media, right? The way people get influenced right now. So, traditional publications said, whoa, wait a minute. I thought people liked buying newspapers. And the cable company said, well, wait a minute. I thought people loved our cable boxes. I didn't think they wanted this streaming service thing. And Netflix came about and said, well, this is the way entertainment's going to be. And all these things that happen in the environment that's outside the company should at least be attempted to be predicted, but it is very hard to do so. So sometimes we are the change, and sometimes we react to the change. And what makes this business so exciting is the constant change, the constant kind of like a ship out at sea and you're trying to walk on the deck, and you're constantly trying to get your balance, and then a wave comes over the ship and kind of hits you a little bit, and then you're all wet, and you have to start over again, go to your cabin to get dried off. And that's what happens. This is the way the business is. And innovation comes in, a new app comes out. So, one of the things we must always be aware of is that our customers are our most valued resource for money, the only resource we have. But at the same time, everyone wants them. So the fight is for customers. And when someone takes a customer away, it reduces our earnings. So we have to get that customer back plus another one. That's what we do every single day. The other thing you should understand is that basically there are three types of objectives. Let me see. Okay. In chapter 7, you'll see three. We only have two here. Marketing objectives, communications objectives, and sales objectives. All right. We'll discuss sales in chapter 7. The marketing objective is, what do you want to accomplish by the overall marketing program? The communication objective is a way to accomplish the marketing objective. So if the marketing objective says we want sales to increase by 5%, then we have to create communications, right? We have to say, well, we need some sales promotion, we need some PR, maybe some ads, and we're going to create this message: buy one, get one free, so on and so forth. And we're going to drive to accomplish the marketing objective. Therefore, pay very close attention to this. Communications objectives come from marketing objectives. Without marketing objectives, there are no communications objectives. So marketing objectives give birth to communications objectives. Marketing objectives come from the brand, the manufacturers. Communications objectives come from the promotional side, the agencies, the PR firms, so on and so forth. So marketing objectives are delivered to us if we're in an agency, and they're saying how we're going to accomplish this. And then we set about doing our communications objectives. This is usually on tests. And that's about it. The sales objectives we'll do in chapter 7. The stuff I skipped over, I would still like for you to get an overview on. But at the end of this chapter, you should definitely know what the 4 Ps are. You should know what each element of the promotional mix is, with the advantages and disadvantages for each that is expressed in the book. And there will be a quiz on this chapter, but it won't be until next. I will post it next week. Okay. I hope you have a great week. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me.